I think we can get started. Welcome everyone. I'm very, very happy to be standing in front of you all, even though I'm also nervous, to talk today about the powers of personality and to present you a framework which is called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And we're going to do a quick tour of it. It's actually a very deep model, which you can take really a very long time to explore. So today we're just going to go on a quick exploration together, a quick tour, and we'll also be acting a little bit out of our gut feeling. So there's one thing which I really love about the MBTI. It's on one hand, it's about you, it's about us, about me being a unique person, but it's also me being unique in a way, in a family of different characters. So we will take a look at also the different families. You know, what type of characters can we find? What structures of personality can we see emerge? And how am I unique in that? In this. And the other thing also is that it really recognizes lots of differences in people. So the interesting part is, in a way, having a framework that helps you connect, reach out to people, understand also maybe to which family they may belong, and you know where you stand, and from there to develop. So it's basically the motto also of the conference, right? It's about being unique and having strengths we can build on. I would like to start with the first little exercise. It's a workshop, so I'm trying to make it as interactive as possible. And I would like you to turn to your neighbor and you take either your block, or I have some paper here if you need, and some pens, which you can either take a whole sheet, or you can take it split it in two if you want. And I would like you to share for a few minutes with each other about one key experience, when you think very spontaneously about one experience you've had in your life where you were active in this experience and you felt you were really at your best, you really managed that thing, whatever it was, really nicely. So please share with each other about one experience like that. So now, after sharing your experiences, put on paper the main characteristics that you see that emerged about yourself, your best characteristics from this experience. You know, like qualities, for instance. Could be like energetic, passionate, focused, detail-oriented, you know, whatever you think is really describing you best in a few words. Again, we are going for a lot of simplicity now. And then you write this down, and you put them on the piece of paper. And to close that exercise, I would like to invite you to put these words that you find were your main own characteristics on your chest. I have some tape if you want to put that on your chest, and we'll take on that later on, okay? So you write a few words about yourself, or you can draw also, you can use symbols, you can use drawing, you know, your creativity, of course. So what we're going to do next, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the Myers-Briggs and what type of personality analysis it gives. And in the end, we'll do another exercise where you will be walking around. So I promise it's not going to be only input and slides. I forgot, by the way, to say my name. I realize I'm Gaëlle, and in my company we do a lot of leadership and team development, also coaching. And the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator is one of the tools that we use. We use other tools, but this is one we use for to help people understand themselves better, to understand their team members better, but also to develop as leaders. And it's really, really an interesting tool, and you will see why in a minute. It's actually based on the research of Carl Jung, who in the 20s worked on finding personality structures, and he realized that there were very important cognitive functions that all of us are using, of course, to live. One of them being living in a world full of information, so about how we process and take in information, and the other one is we need to decide at every second of our life. So how do we make decision processes? So these were two main dimensions that he started to work with. That's basically the start of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Taking a look at how people are different in the way they process information and the way they make decisions. There are two other dimensions that were explored further. One is about how we get our energy, where we get our energy from, and where we direct our energy. Not all of us have the same ways to get energized or to put our energy somewhere. And the other one is how much structure we need in our life and how we lead, in a way, our lives. And again, we are very different here. So this was the beginning of the model, of researching the model. And after Carl Jung, there were two ladies in the US who were really interested in that research and started to develop it really as a model based on a questionnaire. And that was the beginning of the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And Myers and Briggs are the name of this mother and daughter in the States who developed the tool further. So that's why now it's called Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, as a short form, the MBTI. It's been since very, very, very much developed. There's lots of research into it. There have been many, many versions of the questionnaire. It's a very, very valid questionnaire that it will take. So usually what you do, you take on the questionnaire, and then with a certified coach, you will go through a self-positioning process, dimension per dimension, and then you will find your type. So it's also a very interesting process because it's not only you take a test and that tells you who you are, but you, on one hand, you do an online questionnaire and that gives you some indication. On the other hand, you also go with a coach through questions to really find out who you are. So a little bit like what we just did really very, very, very shortly today, but of course in a more thorough way. And that is really interesting because it is a model that is really based on strengths. So it's not about, that's why we don't use the word test, because test would mean it's good or bad or you fail. So it's not a test, and it's not about, there's no good type, there's no bad type, there's no wrong or right. It's all very different personality types. And the idea behind also, which is really important, it's one of the personality instruments that tell you that your type will not change over the course of your life. I know that some people struggle a little bit with this idea because, of course, we want to see ourselves in development, and we are in development. But the idea behind is to say we were born with some characteristics of personality, and this is what is not changing. It's like the color of your eyes. It's like sometimes we say about being right-handed or left-handed, right? So this is not going to change. This is the core, this is the essence. It's the strength and the flow I was born with. However, we will all develop over the course of our life in a way that we will explore through work, through friendships, through contacts, through different experiences in life. We will explore other types of personality, and we will learn also to develop and to use other preferences. So it's a really interesting model because it helps us find our core, basically, where we come from in a way, where we come from. understand the path we've been moving to in the course of our life, where we are at the moment. Maybe also see what we want to develop more, to which areas, which potential we also want to develop. And at the same time, it gives us a wonderful overview of different types of personality, and it helps us understand why some people are reacting the way they're reacting. So without, of course, knowing immediately this is someone who's like this or like this, we can start having a hint, and then we can also start trying different strategies that will confirm or not confirm our hypothesis. So I'm going to also show you afterwards different types of personality. I want, with this slide, to go back to the idea that the MBTI is a developmental model that is also really, really useful to lose our fears. And basically, when we look at neurosciences today, what they say is human beings have been developing with their cortex, with this part of the brain that wants to learn and explore. And it's a seeking system. We seek to explore the world. And what we also see today is that when we're scared, we fall back into another part of the brain, which is smaller and which is absolutely incompatible with the seeking system. So when we talk about leaving the comfort zone and going out and trying out new things, it's great when we feel we are strong to do that. And that's what a model like the Myers-Briggs is really helping us to. It's easier to jump once we've built the muscles and once we know we have the muscles for that. So that's something that is really interesting, when we look at this type of personality model, to link it with the idea of the growth mindset, how we can seek to learn and learn from our capacities and where we're also in the flow. The MBTI will show you where you are in your own flow, where you have your best energy. So that's also very important. And I really like this sentence from Jaak Panksepp, who's a neuroscientist, who says, when the seeking systems are not active, human aspirations will remain frozen in an endless winter of discontent. So basically, when we do not feed that learning brain of us, then we're not happy. It's like being in an eternal winter. So it's very, very important to, in a way, feed that other part and let it flourish. And when we talk about strengths, and we work a lot with strengths building approaches, such as, for example, also the appreciative inquiry. What we want to see is reality. We want to focus on not only what we could do better. It's important to know. It's important to see. We have green dots. There are also some red dots. And usually when we talk about development, we focus very much only on what we could do better. So we call that focusing on the red dots. It's good to see them. However, if we focus too much on the red dots, then we start activating the fear system. We start to be scared, because then suddenly these weaknesses, they become so big and we feel we will never be able to overcome there. So it's good to know about our strengths. In moments we're also looking at what we could improve, because then we see this is the potential we can draw upon. And instead of making the red dot very big, why not make the green dots very big? And with that we can change so much. And I really like this quote from Einstein. It's really showing the importance of understanding the differences in personalities. Everybody's a genius, and everybody has this huge potential in them. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid, right? So it's very important also to understand that some people who are different from me, once I understand why they need different types of information or why they use a different process for making a decision. It's only then when I understand that I can judge, is that an appropriate decision or is that the right piece of information? If I judge from my personality, then it's not going to be working. Then we're not going to talk, on the same level with each other. And that's why I really believe that the MBTI is a great model also, to build bridges between people, to really understand them better. Now, before we start moving around the room, I just want to show you the concept of preference when we talk about personality preferences and we use these dimensions. I'm going to ask you to fold your arms once, okay? So, okay. And so now you unfold them and you fold them the other way around. Oh. How does that feel the second time? Weird. Weird. Okay, strange. Okay, is it comfortable? Okay. Could that become comfortable? Yes. What would you need for that? Practice, okay. All right. Okay. So, and that's exactly what the concept of preference is. Basically, you were born with one preference, how you fold your arms. And that feels very natural, it's easy, it's your flow. Going out of your preference, it's like trying to fold the arms the other way around. It's very difficult. I need some practice. And that's something that you will practice over the course of your life. And that's what we mean with, starting to move out of your preference. You know where you are, you know where you come from, and you start moving out and you start practicing. And sometimes you become so good at it that it becomes like a second nature, right? So you really, really can move along that scale really easily. Okay. So now I'm showing you the 4 dimensions. Again, the first one is called extraversion and introversion, and it has a different meaning today. When we talk about extraversion, we think about people who love speaking in public, but originally the term was very much linked to the energy. So basically, extraversion means that I take a lot of my energy from the outside world, and I also love to put my energy in the outside world. And introversion means I recharge my batteries when I go into myself. And I also love to put energy into myself, into my thinking, my self-reflection, right? So it doesn't mean that if you're an introvert, you cannot do public speaking. On the contrary, you can be a fantastic public speaker, really connecting very deeply with everyone, right? But it's a different type of energy. The second dimension is about our cognitive process of taking in information, and it's called sensing and intuition. And by sensing, we understand that we take information with all our senses. It's everything that I see at the moment, in the present moment, that I feel, that I hear. So sensing means being very specific, very concrete, very pragmatic, very much in the here and now. Intuition, it also has a different meaning today. Intuition means a little bit the gut feeling today. But for Carl Jung, intuition was a much deeper concept, and it had a lot to do with a natural and very quick ability to create patterns, to put information pieces together and to make patterns out of them. So I don't know who was in the storytelling workshop before with Caroline. Yes, remember when she showed Carrie in Homeland? And then you can see Carrie, this character of Homeland, and she's standing in front of a huge wall and it's full of photos, and she's been putting lots of information together. That's exactly what intuition is about. And I remember Caroline said, she said, Carrie sees things that others do not see. So that's the intuition part, right? So it's that capacity to make bridges and between elements. And the third one is called thinking and feeling, and it's about how we make decisions. And again, we have to be careful with the words, because it doesn't mean that people who are thinkers do not feel and feelers do not think. Both do, of course. But it's about, how much logic and cause and effect process do we need when we make decisions? That would be thinking. I take objective criteria and I want to have them in a very logical way. Or if I'm on a feeling side, I believe that it's very important to make decisions according to your own values, according also to the people who are at stake. So you step in the process and you try really to make the best decision for everyone, and that is also related to your values. And the last one of the dimensions has a lot to do with how much structure we need in our life, or how little structure we need in our life. And it's called judging and perceiving. And when we talk about judging, we mean a preference where people need to have a plan, they need to have lots of structures, they need to start on time. And when we talk about perceiving, today we would maybe say emerging. These are people who actually love to go with the flow and don't mind if priorities change, and basically everything that emerges is maybe full of potential. Okay? So based on these 4 dimensions, and each dimension has 2 possibilities. Of course, we have 16 types. Okay? And that's here a summary of the whole types, and again, it's a very short piece of information about all the types. Actually, each type has a very, very huge description. And what we're going to do now is that you have your little pieces of paper, and in this room I tried to stick everywhere I could, everywhere I found some walls. I first put some posters about the 8 big families of the MBTI, and I'm going to tell you that right now. And then I also put some posters about each of the types, and I will ask you to go around to take a look, and with a partner, with one person or 2 people. It can be your neighbor or other people if you want, and intuitively, this time with your guts, find the type you feel most attracted to, and then we'll see, if there's something emerging here. So basically, the 8 core families, and each family, has 2 possible types. You will have, the conserver, the tradition holder types. You will have the visionary types, people who have very, very strong inner vision. The analyst, people who love to really work with facts and data, put them in a very logical manner. You will have the conscientious types, and they're very much guided by their own principles and their values, and that's a very inner process. And then you will have the activists. There are people who love to go out and do things, and they're very action-oriented. And you will also have the explorer types, and they're always interested by new things. For those who were in the workshop before about storytelling, we had a couple of stories where I thought, these are really strong explorer types, saying, I was very curious and I wanted to learn so much, so I changed country and I changed job and I did this and this. Then you will have the director types, and they are people who are very structured and very good at putting the structures out there and finding a sense in things, and helping people also get clarity. And then you will have the nurturer types. Nurturer types are people who are very people oriented, and they really see also their purpose to give to others and to connect, and they're also based on guided by their principles, but they really put very much that in the outside world. So these are the 8 families, in a way, of the MBTI. Now, so with your partner or groups of 3, if you want, just go around the room. You will find also in the back room. Each time there's one family, it's stuck, and then you have the 2 kids, in a way, of the family. Take a look at what we wrote before, and that's important because I believe some of the characteristics you might recognize in the characteristics that are on the posters. And, get in conversation with your partners and find out, who is who in a way. Okay? So I think 10 minutes. Good. Okay, so just before we stop, I would like to do one thing, a very unique thing for each of you. When I clap my hand, I'm going to ask you to either say or do something expressing your energy now, okay? Ready? Start, go! Woo! Okay, thank you.